A good late afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Sage, you're watching 𝐊𝐴𝐿𝐴 TV live from Sydney. And this is the last show of the day, the last trade. And there's no better way to wind down the day than with today's market close commentary, so let's dive straight in, starting with the global update. The Asian stocks were mixed on Wednesday ahead of the US inflation data, offering a glimpse at how the world's largest economy is recovering. And the Nikkei 225 in Tokyo rose 0.7% and the Shanghai Composite Index added 0.1%. The Kospi in South Korea gave up 0.3%, however, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng was up 0.5%. Analysts are expecting the latest US headline inflation rate due Wednesday to grow at a slower pace of 5.3% in July from a year earlier, and this is slightly lower than June's 5.4%. Over on Wall Street, financial and industrial companies helped lift the market amid a pullback in the technology stocks. The S&P 500 recovered from an early slip and added 0.1%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.5% and the tech-heavy Nasdaq slipped to 0.5%. On the virus update, quite a few countries around the world are still contending with the coronavirus Delta variant spread, especially in Asia, which has resulted in travel restrictions being reimposed in many countries. And Melbourne's lockdown will be extended by a week after Victoria recorded another 20 infections, including 5 mystery cases. People in Cairns are ready to exit a short lockdown, while millions in New South Wales must stay at home until the end of the month. And now talking about the domestic market, the ASX 200 continued its momentum and made yet another all-time high of 7,615.1. After having closed at a record high on Tuesday, and the benchmark index closed the session 0.29% up, boosted by a solid earnings update from the country's largest lender, CBA, and strong gains in banking and mining stocks. The ASX All Ordinaries Index closed up by 0.29%, retracing from a record high in today's session. Commonwealth Bank's shareholder-pleasing earnings have helped it, and the ASX smashed the records in early trades today. Across the Tasman Sea, New Zealand's benchmark NZX 50 index rose 0.07%. And among the ASX 200 stocks, IOOF Holdings was the top gainer, gaining 6.28%. Apart from that, low-cost lithium chemicals producer Orocobre was up 5.89%, followed by Iris gaining 5.29%. And on the flip side, Megaport emerged as the top loser, falling 6.54%. Some of the other worst stocks under pressure were Inghams Group, who lost 3.54%, and Perseus Mining, who lost 3.03%. And now, before we look at the shares that are in the news today, it's time for a short break.
Hi there, James Preston for 𝐊𝐴𝐿 TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. 𝐊𝐴𝐿𝐴's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Monday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to 𝐊𝐴𝐿𝐴 TV.
Welcome back. This is Sage. You're watching 𝐊𝐴𝐿𝐴 TV live from Sydney. And this is the last show of the day, the last trade. And next up, let's see how the sectoral indices performed today. A sub-index of Australian gold stocks, ASX All Ordinaries Gold Index, dropped as much as 1.4%, hitting their lowest since the 1st of April as the bullion prices weakened on the back of a stronger dollar and a rise in the bond yields. The index is set to post its 5th straight session of losses. And sector heavyweight Newcrest Mining fell 0.7%, while Northern Star Resources took a hit of 1.9% to hit its lowest levels since 18th March 2021. Commonwealth shares traded for record $109.03 Australian on Wednesday after the bank's Full year earnings included a $6 billion Australian dollar buyback and higher dividends, and the big four banks, along with Bendigo Bank, were all trading higher today and closed in the green. Similar gains for mining giants as they rose 1.23%, even as iron ore prices slumped on concerns about the weakening Chinese demand. And BHP Group, Fortescue Metals Group and Rio Tinto ensured the ASX 200 climbed to the record 7,615.1 points earlier in the trade. Now, iron ore miners Mount Gibson Iron and coal miner Coronado Global Resources led the gains on the sub-index, and Mount Gibson Iron gained 1.3% and Coronado Global Resources gained 4.15%. Energy shares also contributed to today's broader market rally and were up more than 0.9% higher, while telecom shares topped the losers chart, down almost 0.8%. And within the energy pack, one of the best performers was Beach Energy, whose shares closed up 2.9% to reach 1.215 Australian dollars. And the market breadth as of closing was slightly on a positive side, with 7 out of the 11 sectors ending in the green. And in this segment, we'll shift our focus now towards stocks that created a buzz today. On the ASX, Insurance Australia Group made a full-year loss after business interruption claims from COVID-19 and refunds to customers weighed on the bottom line. The company reported a net loss after tax of 427 million Australian dollars. Shares dropped 1.89% down to $5.18 Australian, and the fall may have affected enthusiasm for rival insurer QBE Insurance Group. Its shares dropped 1.28% to $11.48 Australian. Market software vendor Iress jumped 5.15% to $15.10 Australian after the company received an improved takeover offer. An EQT fund management has offered to pay $15.91 Australian for all shares before franking credits. And EQT would also ensure an interim payout of up to 16 cents Australian per share, and Iress said its board will recommend the offer to investors. Australia's largest lender, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, doubled its dividend to $2 Australian and announced a share buyback of $6 billion Australian dollars while reporting a 20% jump in the full-year profit to $8.65 billion Australian dollars, and shares of Commonwealth Bank gained as much as 2.3% to hit a record high, while the Australia and New Zealand Banking Group added 1.1%. The gains helped the financial sub-index rise 0.8%. And now, before we look at more shares that are in the news today, it's time for another short break. Property by 𝐊𝐴𝐚. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest slowdown in the property market, tune in on 𝐊𝐴𝐚 TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with 𝐊𝐴𝐚. Welcome back. This is Sage. You're watching 𝐊𝐴𝐚 TV live from Sydney, and this is the last show of the day, the last trade. Stockbroker Bell Financial Group has reported an interim net profit up 3% to 16.8 million Australian dollars on revenue, up 1% to $130.5 million. It will pay a dividend up 12.5% to 4.5 cents per share on earnings of 5.2 cents per share. As at the period end, it had cash on hand of 95 million Australian dollars and no debt. And as of closing, the stock was down 1.96%. And medtech business Rhinomed shot up by a massive 75% in today's session after it announced that it has received purchase orders and begun supplying New South Wales Health Pathology for an initial 1 million rhino swabs as part of a program to support the COVID-19 state testing capability. However, no financial details over the deal were disclosed. In the last segment of this show, let's have a quick look at what's buzzing in the crypto market. And the US Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, released a statement on the cryptocurrency compromise, which reached in the US Senate. She expressed that she is grateful to Senators Warner, Portman, Sinema, Toomey and Loomis for working together on the amendment to provide clarity on important provisions in the bipartisan infrastructure deal that will make meaningful progress on tax evasion in the cryptocurrency market. In another breaking news from the US, shook the crypto enthusiasts. A firm specialising in transferring cryptocurrency said Tuesday that hackers cracked its security, making off with a record-setting haul, potentially worth $600 million, and this is the biggest heist in the history of DeFi. Now, Poly Network posted online addresses used by the hackers and called on miners of affected blockchain and crypto exchanges to blacklist tokens coming from them. And thanks for your company on that report, and that is all for now in the last trade. And with our existing operations in Australia, New Zealand, UK and Canada, 𝐊𝐿𝐼 Media has launched its operations in the US markets as well. And every day in our first show, the Global Market Roundup, you can get the latest and important news of the US, Europe and Asia Pacific markets. So on that note, I shall see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. live from Sydney. Sage signing off.